Headies 2020. So Headies 2020.
Yeah.
Nominations are out.
Yeah.
Lots of reactions, lots of feedback.
Yeah.
But let's start with the positives for you. What are the positives from this year's nominations?
For a minute, right? The Headies Awards, the Headies, they've been dogged with accusations of a lack of inclusion, of a lack of credibility, and bad branding all around. Because over the past, say, 3-4 years, the awards have not been as respected as they used to be. Like, whenever the Headies nominations will come out, people will go crazy on social media. Like, conversations will, the nominations will be mad in conversation. People would come out and say a lot of things about the Headies. A lot of things would happen in the wake of Headies nominations and Headies Awards. And we will remember that the event that held on December 31, 2015 / January 1, 2016, a Nigerian celebrity, a Nigerian superstar went on stage to voice his displeasure at the fact that one of the artists signed to his label, who is Lil Kesh, who didn't win the Next Rated Award. And the Next Rated Award had been subject of intense conversation for a long time, especially since Shanti's won over Burna. And even the Patoranking over Yemi Alade one, there was conversation around that. There was conversation around Ricardo Banks and Lil Kesh. It's been a back and forth thing. But over the past 1 year, since the 2019 nominations dropped, the Headies have been more inclusive, even though the nominations have not been perfect. Let's get one thing straight. No award nomination is perfect. Nothing. None is perfect. But the Headies have been doing their best to try to right the wrongs. Obviously, it's very obvious to right the wrongs of the past. Look at last year's nominations. Good Gelele got the nomination for Best Vocal Performance. Falano got the best nomination for Best Performance. Odusis Rare got a nomination. Teiwa got a nomination. Payback got a nomination in the rap categories. Fowls won Album of the Year. And it was obvious that the Headies were trying to right the wrongs of the past. They were trying to be more inclusive, build credibility, build a lot of things. Now the nominations worked well, at least worked considerably better than the previous years. But the awards weren't exactly perfect. Because you look at the fact that a Fowls won Album of the Year over Burna Boy's Outside caused a lot of conversation. Certain categories that Tenny won, certain categories that Burna Boy lost, and the fact that Rema won Next Rated over Zlatan. If it had been in previous years where the conversation and the hype around the Headies was high, there would have been a larger conversation around that. But these days, a lot of people, there's an attention deficit against the Headies. But guess what? A lot of people have been saying that Sound City might take over from the Headies, and I sort of agreed with that until recently when I thought about it. But the truth is, Sound City MVPs are not exactly an award show. It's a show, it's a performance that incorporates awards into its fabric. It's not primarily an award show. It's an amazing show, it's an amazing set to promote performances and to give people a worthwhile celebration of Nigerian music. So the award, like a peripheral part of it, that is sort of becoming a major part of it. And even this year, they were not perfect. We attended it, but a lot of people are not going to have a conversation around that. We are going to have a conversation around the Headies. But here's a conversation around the Headies that nobody's having. The Headies are going to be held to a higher standard because you are the Headies and you've been here for 14 years. This is the 14th edition. The first person to win Next Rated at the Headies was Asha. So you know how far back the Headies have been here. So we have to then look at how they've been trying to do it. And for once, the nomination this year goes in line with the conversation around the Headies that they are moving in the right direction, slowly but surely. Now, it's going to take consistency to get to where they want to be in terms of credibility, in terms of trust from the public, in terms of relationship with the public and the artists, in terms of even people celebrating them like they used to. And it's going to take a lot of branding. It's going to take a lot of work behind the scenes. And contrary to popular opinion, I have an authority that Mr. Yanni Marshall is not a part of the voting academy for the Headies. So a lot of people tend to now sit back and then watch the award for what it's going to be and understand that no award is perfect. But this year's nominations, I would say, at first, I focused on negativity as a person. I will admit that. I focused on a lot of negativity, some of the mistakes here and there, because I disagreed with a few things. And I still disagree with those things. But when you look at the overall spirit of the nominations, you then have to say that, okay, you guys got a lot more right than you got wrong. If it was an exam and you were talking about the positives and the negatives, you would talk about 65, 70% rightness over 30% negatives. But it's just a sad thing because people are going to focus on the negatives over the positives because that's the way human beings are built. For example, you write an album review. People are not going to look at the right things you wrote about them. They're going to gloss over them. They're going to focus on negativity. It's human nature. So right now, the things they got right this year again is inclusivity.
So when you talk about inclusivity, who are these artists and what projects do you think showed inclusivity from?
Number one, starting from last year, like we said last year, a lot of people from the people who have termed alter and IJGB saints, the sort of young people who are from affluent families, whom Nigerians don't like, but who are making quality music that are alluring to a certain type of people. That even if you don't like the music, you are going to appreciate the artistry, the musicianship, and everything behind it. This year, they continued, I think they even took it to a higher level. Now, this year, the inclusivity was not as spread across board as with last year, but they made some brazen choices in terms of inclusivity this year. Psycho YP for Rap Album of the Year. I mean, when we named that album as Album of the Year, one of the best rap albums of the year last year, you remember the conversation that people were having? A lot of people a lot of Nigerians don't listen to music enough to have certain conversations. So they feel like the music that they listen to should automatically get nominated for things. And it's an unfair reflection on people who truly listen to music because you don't listen to music as much as those people. So Psycho YP's nomination, I thought it was amazing. It was like it's an ego boost for people like that. Creatives have doubts. To know that people are truly listening to your music and the right people are listening to your music, that's amazing. And the fact that AQ's run continues. For a long time, he couldn't win a lyricist of the room. For a long time, he couldn't even get a lot of nominations. I mean, some of his albums have gotten nominations over the year. Some of his singles have gotten nominations over the year. But it's a continuous run now. For a rapper who was underground for a number of years, this is amazing. Dinade got a nomination for Bitter. Olu got a nomination for God Save the. By the way, Olu's EP is amazing. You guys should check it out. Jades got a nomination. You are talking about World got the highest number of nominations at the 2020 Headies. It doesn't get more inclusive than that. World, 7 nominations. It doesn't get more inclusive than that. Timaya, for a long time, even on Timaya's latest album, Gratitude, you will understand that Timaya feels slightly underappreciated in the Nigerian music industry. His demeanor shows it. Gratitude shows it. Even when last year, when we put him on the list of best dressed rappers, he sort of went on Instagram Live and said something. So my favorite moment of this year is Timaya's special recognition. I mean, for a guy who, and it's also very hard to classify Timaya's music. I think that's one of the problems with the Headies. They've struggled to classify his music over the years. But the special recognition shows that you have earned this and we're going to give it to you. Now, I was talking about big calls, brazen calls. For a long time, Brimo was quote and unquote snubbed by the Headies. But this year, album of the year, Brimo and Chike deservedly got nominations. That is beautiful. Like Jades got a nomination for Cheerful. It's amazing. And another thing that I really loved about this is the separation of certain categories and how they were able to appropriately classify music. Now, they didn't get it right in a certain regard, but they got it right in a lot of regards. For example, for a number of years, I've been befuddled by the fact that the Headies merge pop R&B categories into one for albums. It's not exactly reflective of the Nigerian reality. It doesn't make any sense. This year they separated them. Pop album, different category. R&B album, different category. Alternative album, different category. And it's such a good time to do it because we got a lot of quality albums in 2020 for Nigerian artists. A lot! It was too much, in fact. And I also love the fact that DRB Last Giddy got a nomination for Best Alternative Album. I love that too because that album was sort of sailing under the radar for a minute and deserved recognition from people who had been grinding. I'm still not Fresher's biggest fan, but for someone I questioned for a long time, it came in on that album and delivered. So I feel like they deserved something from that. It was amazing to see that. And Celia's song, the last song of Tiwa Savage's album, which I think is the best song on that album, also got a nomination. Those things, it shows that the Headies were listening. They listened. And then Rude Boy for Street Up, your song.
Yeah.
That song, a lot of people are going to say it's a pop record. Yeah. But it was amazing when I saw it as a Street Up record. It was an amazing choice. It blew me away that, wow, okay, you people are aware. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, but it feels like the Headies changed something about the Academy and their voting panel. They changed something about it. And I think, we must praise the people who are on that Academy right now. Yeah.
Okay, so let's rate it. Yeah. You still have a problem with them not including?
Yeah, I have a problem. I have a problem. I have a big problem with it. I think the next rated is basically like the Nigeria's version of Best New Artist at the Grammys. And for some reason, next rated has been the most talked about, the most powerful nomination. I mean, the most powerful category at the Headies. Even more than Artist of the Year. Yeah.
It's because of the car.
I think it's because the people that are nominated in that category are still hungry for success. They still have the energy to rant when things don't go their way. There's a reason why Burna Boy left the venue left the hotel that year when he lost to Shantizu and never came back. There's a reason why Olamide went on stage. Even Lil Kesh, there's a reason why Lil Kesh still made a song two songs about losing at the Headies. He said it on the billet. No, he didn't say it on it. He said it on the first track, the opening track to his album, Yagi. Fuck the award, I don't care. Kesh is all about the streets. He said it. So a lot of times, I think it's more about the exuberance and the energy and the will to succeed. Manifesting in a way to not make people censored enough to not say things that they don't feel right about. So the idea is, this year, I still think the next rated category is still powerful, but this year is probably more obvious than the other years. It's too obvious who is going to win this year. It's too obvious. But I have a problem. The Grammys have been changing their category for Best New Artist, but we're not even talking about the Grammys right now. We're talking about the Headies because I feel like it should not be about people who have released the albums. It should be more about the status of the artists. Like, we know the artists who should be getting a next rated nomination. It's the artists who are not exactly there yet, who are like rookies. Like, these days, you have SoundCloud kids.
We have Rookie of the Year.
We have Rookie of the Year, though. But the thing is, I'm saying people who have released albums should be getting nominated in this category. For example, the Cavemen are still new to the Nigerian music industry. So to then disqualify them from next rated category because they have released an album, I don't know how I feel about that. Because they are still new. Look at Psycho YP, for example. Psycho YP is like 21 or 22. He's still young, he's still new to a lot of people. A lot of people still don't know who he is. But still, the guy has released, he has about over 6 bodies of work. 6. So to then disqualify people, SoundCloud kids have released, they release albums every other day. So to then disqualify them on the basis of albums, I think the Headies need to change that. I think that conversation needs to change entirely. Yeah.
No EPs?
Yeah. I think the modern reality these days is that EPs, we are back to an album market. We are not even going to argue that anymore. Because of streaming, the reality of streaming means that people start to make more money and they start to have more bragging rights by showing off their streams from our bodies of work than from singles. So we are back to an album market. But the version of albums these days are shorter because a lot of people struggle to retain attention spans. And it's because a lot of people who listen to the music have terrible attention spans. Unless maybe you're a superstar. Even when you're a superstar, the album has to be really good for people to be able to say the album, to be able to listen to the album completely. This year, Olamide's album was 32 minutes. Wizkid's album was slightly longer, but it wasn't up to 15 tracks. So you have to understand that. So that's why EPs are a reality these days. It's also about, as much as it's about it's a streaming reality, it's also about the fact that artists have found a way to abridge the system, to game the system. You don't have to release an album anymore. You can release a single. And a lot of them too, it's also a tactic that talks about their confidence. A lot of them are not confident enough to release albums because they want to say that if an EP tanks, they want to say, oh, it was an EP. It wasn't an album. We are coming with the album to repair it. And EPs are like experiments for a lot of people these days. Like if an EP fails, people are going to know that, oh, we are not going to work on that song. Yeah. It happened with Wizkid. It happened with Olamide. Olamide said he didn't put a 999 EP to experiment. He put it out because he just wanted to put something out. But he said learn something from it. So the idea is to learn things from it. So I think the reality that we currently live in, where EPs are as important as albums, EPs should have been considered at the Headies in 2020. But I think what they should have done is they should have made a provision for the types of EPs that could have gotten nominations. So if it's that, maybe they will say that if anything that is shorter than 6 tracks and is shorter than say 25 minutes or say 20 minutes will not be able to get a nomination. Or maybe 15 minutes, let's say 15 minutes. 15 minutes will be more because songs are shorter these days. So let's say 15, 16, 17 minutes. They're not going to get a nomination. I think that is what they should have done. Yeah.
Twice as Tall was snubbed.
Yeah. Twice as Tall was snubbed. It was... I get it, but I still don't get it at the same time. I think the major reason is African Giants is a bigger album than Twice as Tall in Nigeria. Don't get me wrong, Twice as Tall, it's bigger in terms of streams. It debuted at number 54 on the Billboard 200. But from a Nigerian perspective, African Giants is more Nigerian than Twice as Tall is. So, and Twice as Tall has not peaked in Nigeria. But African Giants, oh my God. African Giants was huge here. So I get nominating African Giants, but I feel like Twice as Tall shouldn't have been completely snubbed because it fell bang into the year in review. So I think Twice as Tall should have gotten nomination.
Normally is back.
And Normally is back.
Yeah.
Normally is back.
What does that mean for
Headies? I don't know, man. I feel this is one of the mistakes of the Headies coming back. Last year, I understand why they didn't nominate him, but this year, if Naira Marley doesn't talk about the Headies or snubs the Headies, you have to understand where he's coming from. Because when he was mad in controversy last year, he wasn't nominated. This year, it's sort of clean. Now he's getting nominations. So it's one of those situations where artists are having problems with the Headies, resentment building over time. Now, the Headies were right to snub Naira Marley last year. It wasn't good for their brand. It wasn't. Like Naira Marley was the biggest thing in Nigeria last year, but you have to understand why the Headies didn't nominate Naira Marley. You have to be completely ignorant or completely tone deaf to not understand why Naira Marley was not nominated. But I can understand from Naira Marley's perspective why he might be angry at the Headies. Because I think even last year, just maybe the Headies could have nominated. In hindsight now, I think I agree with the Headies last year, but in hindsight, yeah, I think it should have gotten the nomination.
So let's talk about the negatives that you had, that you felt first.
Negatives
of the nominations.
Man, Artist of the Year. Artist of the Year was a big problem for me. It was huge. Because I feel it's a year in review thing. I mean, the category for the Headies goes, the criteria for that category is like an accumulation of everything as an artist, as a superstar. It's about pedigree. That's the word that I would classify that category as. They go for pedigree when they're looking for nominations in that category. But I also feel like you shouldn't just go for pedigree when certain things can count in other artists' favor during your year in review. The people that were nominated, Burna Boy, Davido, Wizkid, Mayor, Conti, Savage. But I can't help but feel like it's daylight robbery for people like Simi, Rema, Fireboy, and maybe even Joe Boy. Ask me why. During the year in review, Steve, for Simi alone this year, Simi has 2 of the biggest Nigerian songs in 2020. Duduke, before I started recording this, Google released stats that Duduke was the most searched song, Nigerian song, 2020. It's a problem when you have achieved something like that, only to get snubbed in that category. Last one. Fireboy. Fireboy released 2 albums, 2 quality albums during the year in review. He has basically transcended the level of just another artist. He's now a star. Fireboy deserved an Artist of the Year nomination. You shouldn't place that on the basis of pedigree. It's a problem. Fireboy should have gotten a nomination. Look at Rema. Rema dropped an EP in July last year. Produced Bad Commando and Lady. This year, he has Beamer. He has Woman. He has Ginger Me. Why was he snubbed in that category? Are you going to tell me that during the year in review, last year, what are Wizkid's biggest songs? People are going to say numbers. But Wizkid is going to do more numbers than these guys. He's a superstar. On his bad day, Wizkid is going to do more numbers than all of these artists because he is Wizkid. He's never going to do bad numbers. But last year, the 2 singles that Wizkid released in the second quarter of 2019, Joro and Get to Love, they didn't even make Made in Lagos. It shows you what those songs were. It shows you how they performed. Davido, 3 of Davido's biggest performing singles from 2017 made his album in 2019. That's the power of pedigree, success of songs. When a song is successful, you are going to put it on your album. Even you are going to call it an extra. It's going to be there. This year, Smile is a fantastic record. But is it a hit? No. It's a great record. No Stress, a bigger record than the rest. But still, that's one song. We are talking about people who had 2 smash hits and a quality EP. We are talking about someone who has 2 albums. 2 quality albums that produced bangers upon bangers upon bangers. One of them, Laughter Tears and Goosebumps, was Nigeria's most streamed album for a while. As a matter of fact, the conversation was, should Fireboy have released Apollo so close after Laughter Tears and Goosebumps? Because the performance, that album hadn't plateaued in terms of numbers. It was still going. And it was snubbed for Artist of the Year, for real. Even Joe Boy. Joe Boy was on Nobody. Joe Boy had Don't Call Me Back last year. He had Beginning. How was he snubbed? How?
Okay.
It was a problem.
What are other negatives?
The negatives, for recording of the year, I saw Wonderful and Burna Boy. It was a tone-deaf choice for me. It was terribly tone-deaf. Because if you are recording of the year, the record might be aesthetically pleasing, but we've discussed it time and time again on this album. It is a bad representation of what Africa is. It's a terrible record. Terrible. Aesthetically pleasing, maybe. But as an overall record, it's a terrible record. It pleases other people, not us. It was created to soothe another market. Another market's terrible sentiments and perceptions of Africa. It's a terrible choice for recording of the year. Bad. If any Burna Boy record should have made that category, it was Monsters You Made. It's a better song. Let's even forget about the perception and anything. It's a better record than Wonderful.
Okay.
Yemi Alade and Lai Lai for best vocal performance. Yemi Alade can sing. No arguments. But Lai Lai though, I don't know. And then Laughter, Tears and Goosebumps not getting a nomination for Album of the Year. I don't know. That was also a problem for me. Because, I think Apollo is a better album. I'm going to agree with the Headies 100% that Apollo is a better album, and that's factual. But Apollo has not peaked in terms of performances and impact over time. Laughter Tears and Goosebumps did that. And check this out. Laughter Tears and Goosebumps was released in Q4 2019. That means its best performances and numbers were in this year. When Apple released their list of top performing songs of the year, Scatter was on the upper echelon of that chart. Fireboy has been doing numbers. Apollo has not picked. If any album had deserved nomination in that category, I would have said maybe it was Apollo for album of Laughter Tears and Goosebumps for album of the year. But I get why Apollo was nominated. Now, another problem I had was Victor Headies. What the hell? Why in the world was Victor Headies nominated in any category? What has he done? What did he do during the year in review? Nothing. That was a terrible choice. It almost felt like there was a reason behind his nomination. Enigma 2 was not a good album. Like, to nominate Enigma 2. I mean, I understand the inclusion part. But if you wanted to do inclusion, there was Deal With It there by Fino. If you wanted to be inclusive, it was about inclusion. Nominate Deal With It by Fino. Enigma 2 was not a good album. And then, another problem I had was Praise. Praise for Best R&B Single was fine. But Praise for Best R&B Album, though, that album wasn't good. No, it wasn't. There was even a song on that album, track 2 or track 3, where there was NigeriaMP3.com. It was that careless an effort. That shouldn't have been there. Best R&B Performance, no problem. That was good. And Best R&B Single, getting the nomination there, but Best R&B Album, no. A lot of people are clamoring for the fact that the Headies should have a gospel category. But I also want to talk from the perspective of, I think gospel is arguably Nigeria's largest genre in terms of impact and acceptance and penetration. But getting a gospel category is not going to serve the purpose of national character. Because if you are going to get a gospel category, are you going to put an Islamic category there? So I get why that conversation is not happening yet. I think people need to chill and understand from the perspective of the Headies.
A final point.
Man, I think a lot of people were crying on Twitter that, oh, Terry and T Classic should have gotten a nomination a day after the nomination was dropped. I'm like, okay, really? Those boys are talented. But in conversation of the people that were nominated, they didn't do enough. I think a lot of artists are entitled. That's the problem I have with Nigerian artists. There's an entitlement to the way they move. They look at their talents, and I don't think they have people in their corners who give them a nudge and reality checks. Because if you had people in your corner who were giving you nudges and reality checks, you would not come out to be saying rubbish on social media. Like, okay, do you want to get a nomination over Oxlade? Do you want to get a nomination over Thames? Over Mali? Really? Even Rookie of the Year, do you want to get a nomination over Bella Shmurda? Okay, Bella Shmurda was next week. Do you want to get a nomination over Bella Shmurda? Dan Papa had a big song this year. You didn't produce a big song. Alpha P, 2 EPs. What do you want? I think a lot of people need reality checks. Way forward for the Headies though, I think, number one, I feel like the Headies are moving in the right direction. Now they need to make proper branding decisions. I think number one thing that they need to do in this part is they need to set up an artist relation thing. It doesn't have to be psycho fancy. It shouldn't even be psycho fancy. But when things like this come out, they need to be able to touch base with artists, have conversations. Oh, talk to a Fireboy, an Olamide. Go to him. Maybe it's in a studio. Go to him, have a conversation with him. Don't even put it on Hip TV. Put it on YouTube. Put it on YouTube. Put it on your social media channels. Put it on IGTV. Let people watch those things. That's how you repair damages. You don't just gloss over them. You don't gloss over them. You don't gloss over them. Have those conversations and make those things work. I think the Headies are already on the right path. I just feel like more inclusion, a lot of things going forward. Now, a lot of people are saying maybe they should make the academy more inclusive and make it larger and make people know, like the Grammys or the Oscars. The problem I have with that is the Headies doing that and having representation was how they got problems in the first place. So now they're on the right path. I think we should try this until it has problems. So I don't have anything to say about all the other things that everybody's saying, and that's facts only.